Hey everybody, it's Asheville-based artist and producer Line 47, sharing with you today more breaks that I've been working on for this upcoming remix. So I've just got a couple sounds for this break, and I'm using phrases as well, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's listen to the few sounds that I've got here. I've got a kick. I've got the snare. I've got one shuffle. And then I've got another snare that I'm using a forward loop on to kind of create a snare roll. How I'm doing that, how I do a lot of my snare rolls, is I will set some volume automation. So here you can see the volume's sliding down while the sample is repeating. And you could change that if you wanted a longer duration. So something kind of cool that you can do, you can automate like the duration with the macros up here at the top. So just to show what that's like here, I add the duration here, and then while it's playing, I could mess with this and get shorter number of repeats. Okay, so those are the sounds that I'm working with. Now in terms of the phrases, I've got 3 phrases here, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. So I'm going to mute most of these columns except for the first one. I'm going to play it. So there's a little bit of variation happening here with each of these, where I've got the maybe command set to 1, which is the lowest value. So that means that each of these places where I've got the Y1 command, it's going to sometimes trigger that with a low probability. That gives this break kind of less of a standard format, and so you get a little bit of variation in the break. And so then I'm also adding some other rows or columns here where I'm adding more variations as well. So let's just play this center column. So you can start to hear how often it actually gets triggered. I'm going to open up this very last column. So not very often, very sporadically. So then when I add the main break as part of that, we get something like this. You could hear a little bit of that variation there. So I've got 2 other breaks that I made as well. And you can see kind of the same strategy where I've got a couple maybe commands on certain hits and values. So let's hear what this first column sounds like. Now let's open up these other columns. Now one thing that's different about this phrase that I'm using is all the way out to the right-hand side. You can see this Y00 command. And what that will do is if I look across this row here, I've got the F5 note with a probability of 5, and then I've got the F5 note with a probability of 1. This version out to the right is retriggering. So what will happen is once the sequence gets to this point where the Y00 command is out, it's going to pick between these two items in the row, I guess I'll say. And you could have multiple maybe commands as well to add to the probability. But for the sake of this, I've just got 2. And then here at the bottom, I've got another example of this where I've got the F5. And this is a note cut, and the probability is very low. And then I've got this G5 with the probability being low as well. So it'll play either one of these each time when it gets down to that part in the sequence. So let's play all of this again. Let it run through a couple times. So you can hear that variation kind of popping in the probability. So the third break I have, again, we've got some probability happening, lower probability of 1, and then one of a couple of 5. So let's hear just this. So the G5 is the shuffle. That's going to happen. But both of those shuffles are paired with a note in the first column, which I believe is probably a snare. A snare up top, and down here, the kick. So again, once this gets down to this row, it's going to most likely play the shuffle, but occasionally will play the kick. Let's hear this full break. I think I want to add a maybe command on this other snare. It's kind of too many snares going on here for me right now. So let's change that. I'm also going to put a shuffle in there as a probability, and I want it to play the shuffle more often. So let's hear that. All right, so we've got 3 breaks with some probability in the breaks. And then getting out to the actual track itself, I'm going to zoom up to the top of this section here. So I've got a bunch of triggers of the phrases. And this is where I introduce even more probability so that the breaks kind of switch, or the phrases switch between the breaks at certain parts. So this S command is triggering a phrase at the 00 spot, at the 04, at the 08, and at the OC or the 12. So if we look back at the breaks, the 0-0 spot would be at the top, 0-4 would be at the 4th line, 0-8 would be at the 8th line, and 0-C would be at the 12th line here. So into 4 sections. And as part of this, I'm also using, this is the latest version of Renoise here. The version that I'm on is 3.54, and they included some nice built-in effects that weren't in previous versions. One of those effects is a utility for phrase control, which is really nice because what you can do is you can set the start range and the end range for the phrase. It's a little bit different than what you would think. So if I set it to 1 and then I set it to 4, that means it's going to play the 1, 2, and 3 phrases. And then I can also set it to random. And so when it's on random, it's going to pop between these 3 phrases. So you've got some randomization there. I've got randomization in the phrase. And then out here, you're kind of re-triggering the phrase. So at each point where I'm triggering the phrase, it also is randomly choosing phrase 1, 2, or 3. So let's hear what all of this combined sounds like. I'm going to let this run a bit. All right, and there you have it. That's how I've kind of been working on breaks lately. This is kind of my go-to method. You should try it out, see how you like it. If you have some other ways that you're adding probability into your sequencing, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for checking it out. Till next time. Later.